Hi all, next topic is support vector machine. So what is machine learning? Machine learning is a subset of AI, artificial intelligence, wherein a machine is being trained by using past data or previous experience. So machine learning can be defined as a process in which you are making a machine to automatically learn and improve from experience without being explicitly programmed. In this, artificial intelligence is something we are trying to impart intelligence onto a machine. We know that intelligence is something which is related or which is owned by a human being. So intelligence itself can be defined as something you are able to remember, something you can learn, or it can be defined as something which is the reaction or actions you are performing based on some conditions or based on some situations. So all these things together can be told as an intelligence. Here into a machine, if you are trying to enable all these things, or if you are trying to add all these things onto a machine, then we call it artificial intelligence. In that a small subset wherein a human being is learning from experience, the same thing if you are trying to add on to a machine, that is from previous data or previous experience, if you are making a machine to learn, then we call it machine learning. So you are trying to make a machine learn from previous data or previous experience. So in case of machine, we call it previous experience as previous data. So machine learning itself can be divided as supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and reinforcement learning. Supervised learning is a method in which there is a supervisor or there is supervision. Means that you are given with previous experience or previous data which is labeled. Wherein in unsupervised learning you are given data which is unlabeled. For example, in an example, let's say you are given with images of cats and dogs, and all these images have been labeled, and you are making a machine to learn what is the image of a, or how it look like the image of a cat, and what is the properties of a image of a dog. So you are given with 100 images of cats which are labeled as cat, and 100 images of dogs which are labeled as dog. Now the machine itself will learn by using the label and its corresponding features, and the machine will make a model. Then once if a new image of an animal comes, then the machine can classify it as a cat or dog based on the information it has got from the previous data. So such a method, such a learning method is called supervised learning method. Supervised learning method can be a regression problem or a classification problem. The example just we have taken was a classification problem where we were trying to classify a new object into a class A or a class B, a class dog or class cat. A regression problem is where the output of a prediction or output of your task will be continuous instead of categorical, like the previous example. Output will be continuous. For example, what will be the temperature tomorrow based on the previous history of temperatures, the previous history of the different weather conditions. If you are asked to predict what will be the temperature tomorrow, that sort of a problem is called a regression problem. So supervised learning is something wherein you have data which is supervised, and based on the supervised data you are making a machine to learn, and that sort of a method is called supervised learning method. Examples are classification and regression. Regression problems are problems where the output is continuous, whereas in classification problem the output is discrete or categorical. In unsupervised learning, you are given with only data, there is no labels associated with it. Sometimes we can say that we are not sure about labels. That's also a possibility in case of unsupervised learning. So it is a data driven sort of learning method. A best example to unsupervised learning is clustering. For example, once again, you are given with some data, and in this data, you are asked to perform some learning to identify some sort of a what you know as some sort of patterns. Based on that patterns, you can group the data into multiple parts. So that is called a clustering sort of application. So in unsupervised method, you are given with only data. There is no labels, so you are not under any supervision. You just have to learn patterns from the data, and based on that patterns, you can do the predictions about the future data. Wherein reinforcement learning, which is the third machine learning approach, you are going to learn from actually mistakes, or you are going to learn from your actions. So here you don't have data associated like supervised or unsupervised algorithms. You don't have a data here. You yourself have to experience from the environment, and the environment will give you rewards. So based on that rewards, you will be able to learn. For example, let's say you are going to train a cat or a dog, and you say to the dog, you are saying sit. Then the dog, if the dog is sitting, then or if the dog is accepting your command, then you give a biscuit. So that is taken as a reward. So in the next time, if you say sit, if the dog is not sitting, then you don't give a biscuit. So it is taken as a negative feedback or a negative reward. So the agent or the dog will try to collect the maximum amount of rewards, positive rewards in this case. So by using such a method is called, or you are reinforcing your learning by giving a reward. So maximum amount of positive reward if you are trying to collect in a situation, then you can say that you can that sort of a method of learning method is called reinforcement learning. Another example is playing chess. So at a particular instant of time, you make a move, and that move, based on that move, you do the calculations and say that the possibility of win is increased, then that is a positive reward. On the other side, if the positive, if it is the chance of losing is increased, then it is a negative reward. So based on that, it can learn whether to do this move or the next move. So that sort of a learning association or learning method is called reinforcement learning. So machine learning approach can be divided into three categories like this: supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and reinforcement learning. So as we have told, classification is dividing your data points into different categories or groups, and sometimes we assign labels also. Like the example which we have seen, we had a category of dogs and cats images. Then based on that, the machine learned a model, and the machine will be able to predict for a new photograph of an animal, which can be classified as, which is can be told as a classification problem. Another examples to classification problems are email classification. You can see mail spam filters in your email providers. So email classification means you can classify your mails as spam or non-spam based on some of the features of the mail. For example, if your mail contains some particular keywords, or if your mail is missing its subject line, all these things can be taken as different features. So based on these features, you can learn this model, and you can always filter your message emails as spam or non-spam. Another example for binary classification is credit card fraud transaction. A handwritten character recognition can be another example for classification problem, wherein you will be learning multiple classes instead of two classes. So that sort of a classification problem is called multi-class classification problem. If you have only two classes like yes or no, true or false, 0 or 1, that sort of a classification problem is called binary classification problem, wherein handwritten character recognition, for example, if you're trying to learn the handwritten characters of English alphabet, then you will have to have 26 classes. So that sort of a classification problem is called multi-class classification problem. We have already seen different classification algorithms like logistic regression, naive Bayes, nearest neighbor, decision tree, etc. And this time we'll discuss about support vector machine. You can really ask why you require support vector machine. You have many different algorithms for classification sort of application. Then why actually we require support vector machine? So let's say you have this data. You have data which is marked as positive, which is marked in blue color, negative data which is marked in red color. You may use any machine learning algorithm to classify these data points. For example, you can always use logistic regression. If you use logistic regression, you will identify a line which splits this data into two parts, and later on use that line for the equation of that line for predicting the output as 0 or 1, so that 0 will be your negative data point and 1 will be your positive data point, or vice versa. So that sort of or any other machine learning algorithm can be used to classify these data points. So, for example, here you have a positive, negative data point. Here you have a positive data point. You use some method to learn from this positive and negative data points. To, for example, this may be the boundary, right? This boundary, to learn this boundary. If you are able to identify this boundary, then you are done. That is whatever below this will be a particular class, whatever above will be another class. So that sort of learning method can be employed here. But you can see that most of the machine learning or learning algorithms are suffering from two problems known as bias and variance. Bias and variance is uh, bias is actually the difference between average prediction and the correct value which we are going to predict, or how far you are predicting from your actual value. That is what your bias is. So a high bias in the sense you are paying little attention to the training data, and you are actually trying to generalize or oversimplify the model. That leads to higher error on training and test data. So bias is how far you are predicting your how far is your prediction from the actual correct value of the data. So that will happen if you are paying little attention to the training data. Whereas variance is the variability of the model of prediction. So it gives the spread of the data, where how much high variance means it pays a lot of attention to the training data, but it does not generalize on the data which it has not seen. So high variance means it performs well on the training data, means that 90%, 95% will be your training accuracy, but on the training data, but the error on the test data will be more in case of high variance. So there is a trade-off between bias and variance. Just these two will work just opposite ways. So there should be some you should identify the correct values of bias and variance, so that you will get a maximum what you known as the best result. For getting the best split or best result, you should identify the best bias and variance values. So bias is actually the how far you are predicting from your actual value, and variance is the spread of the predictions, variability of the model prediction. So high bias is also a problem, high variance is also a problem. So you'll have to identify a trade-off between this bias and variance. Let's say just a mathematics behind bias and variance. Let's say we have this variable y we are going to predict, and your independent variable is x. So assuming that the relationship is y is equal to f of x plus c, or some sort of y equal to f of x, then that is something like a linear regression problem. Then the model, you can create a model f dash x instead of f of x. So f y equal to f of x is the value which is the actual relationship we would like to find out. We have created a model f dash x. Then the squared error at point x is expected value of y minus f dash x square. So y is f of x, so f of x minus f dash x square. That is what the expected error, squared error. The error can be further decomposed as expected f dash x minus f of x square plus expected of f of x minus expected f dash x the whole square plus sigma e square. That is, the first term is bias and the second term is variance, and the third term is irreducible error, which cannot be reduced by using any of the methods. So it is the total error in a prediction can be identified as bias square plus variance. So that's how you have to find out, or you have to find out the best value for bias and variance by keeping this formula in mind. So let's go back and let's see how your SVM works. So as we have told, SVM or any classification algorithm can do a classification of this data points. You have red data points and blue data points. Based on that, you can do a classification by splitting the data by using a line. So you can see that these are the two lines which is used for splitting this data. So what SVM will do is SVM will create a hyperplane to divide the data. Hyperplane in the sense, in 2 dimension it is just a line, in 3 dimension it will be a plane, and in higher dimensions it is called a hyperplane. So up to 2 dimension, 3 dimension and all you can view, but the higher dimensions we may not be able to view based on our thought process, but for a machine it can do calculations at any higher dimensions. So what the SVM will do is SVM will create a hyperplane to divide the data. That's it. So that's how SVM works. And this hyperplane is can be created in different ways. For example, this is one hyperplane and this is another hyperplane, and the hyperplane which is having the highest margin or the widest hyperplane will be selected. So that's how SVM actually works. So this is how the idea behind SVM is to find out a hyperplane which divides this data into multiple parts. So let's see this example. So the maximum margin hyperplane, that is what we would like to identify. In this case, this is the maximum margin hyperplane. So there can be other hyperplanes from in this data set. So let's say you have x1 and x2 as two features, and based on that you have plotted your data, and in 2 dimensions you are able to split your data. So this is the hyperplane you are splitting your data, and from here you can draw two other hyperplanes. One is a positive hyperplane, the other one is a negative hyperplane. The positive hyperplane contains the first positive data point, and the negative hyperplane contains the first negative data point. So you will get the maximum margin hyperplane. So the widest margin that can be laid between the two classes, that will be selected. The width is bounded by some data points. So width is bounded by some data points in the sense, for example, this data point is within the positive hyperplane and this data point is within the negative hyperplane. So there will be some data points which are there in the positive hyperplane and which are there in the negative hyperplane. These are called support vectors. And a data point in some dimension, for example in 2 dimension or 3 dimension, in dimension etc, where data point is called a vector. So these data points which are there in the positive hyperplane and the negative hyperplane are supported by or the maximum margin, this margin is supported by these vectors. So these vectors are called support vectors. So if, for example, if you remove this vector, if you remove this data point, your maximum margin or your hyperplane will change. So that sort of vectors are selected as support vectors. So you only select those vectors. By using that vectors, you are going to get the maximum margin. These vectors are called support vectors, And how to identify these vectors? If you change or if you remove this vector, your maximum margin is going to change, or your hyperplane is going to, maximum margin hyperplane also is going to change. So that vectors are called support vectors, and that's why the name support vector machine. So support vector machine is a discriminative classifier that is formally designed by a separative hyperplane. So you can define support vector machine as a discriminative classifier that is formally designed by a separative hyperplane. It's a representation of examples as points in space that are mapped so that the points in different categories are separated by a gap as wide as possible. So that's the meaning of maximum margin hyperplane. So the margin should be maximum. That is what the meaning of support vector machine. So you are going to find out a margin or a cut which such that the categories are separated by a gap as wide as possible. Now, there can be situations where you are in, for example, in this case, in two dimension, in a linearly, these two are linearly separable. So this case is called linearly separable case. What about if your data is not linearly separable like this? In this case, the data is not linearly separable. So, for example, here the data can be separated like by drawing an oval shape like this. You can draw an oval shape like this, and you can separate. You can say that the data which is there in the oval is one category, and the data outside the oval shape is another category. So such non-linearly separable case, in that case, we do a process, or we use a method called kernel trick, which is by mapping your input space to feature space. So this space is called input space, and this is called the feature space. So this data was in 2 dimension, and now we are mapping the data into 3 dimension. By adding one more dimension to this data, you can map this data into 3 dimension. For example, let's say you are using a third dimension. It has got x dimension and y dimension. Let's add one more dimension to this, the z dimension. So this is x dimension, this is y dimension, this is z dimension. You add a z value such that these data points are going on top and these data points goes below. For example, you use some z is equal to x square plus y square. So you use such a formula and use x, y, z values for plotting. Then you may get that the data at the this data as on top and this data on the below. So by using a plane, you can split this data into two parts. So you find out a space, a feature space such that your data is linearly separable. That's the meaning of kernel trick. So mapping your input space to some feature space, some higher dimension space, so that your data is now can be linearly separable by using a hyperplane. So in this case, you were able to split your data. You were not able to split your data by using a linear or a plane or a hyperplane. Now you can map this into a 3 dimension by using some kernel. We call it kernel tree. And at this point, you are able to split your data. So that sort of a mapping is called kernel trick. So usually non-linearly separable data is mapped into a higher dimensional feature space by using different kernels. See, these are the different kernels used by SVM: linear kernel, polynomial kernel, or radial basis function kernel. In many places you can see that RBF kernel has been utilized. In RBF kernel there is a possibility of mapping your data into infinite dimension space also. So yeah, it's implementation point of view, RBF kernel will be very easy. But you may think that if you have a large number of data points, then using or mapping this large number of data points into a higher dimension will be more time consuming or will not be effective. So in that case, we'll go for some similarity measures and all similarity measures, and use, instead of using all the data points for mapping to higher dimension, we'll use only few data points to map into higher dimension, so that this decision surface can be clearly obtained. So by using cosine similarity and all, we can do that process. So instead of in RBF, we will not be mapping all the data points to the higher dimension. We will be mapping only very few data points. So by using this sort of similarity measures, an example is a cosine similarity measure. So that's different SVM kernels. SVM can be used in different applications like face detection, text categorization, image classification, handwritten detection, and many other cases. And SVM can give you better result compared to many other classification algorithms. Let's briefly look at advantages and disadvantages of SVM also. The advantages are, it is effective in higher dimensional spaces. It can be used if the dimension is more than the number of features also. It uses a subset of training points and decisions that makes its memory efficient. As I've told, it uses only a subset of training points instead of all the data points. Different kernel functions can be specified for decision making it versatile. You can use RBF, you can use any other linear or polynomial, any other kernel functions for making it versatile. Some of the disadvantages are SVM is not going to give you probability estimates, just like your logistic regression or that sort of classification algorithms, wherein you are going to get for each data point, you are going to get what is the probability that it belongs to this class, it belongs to the other class. SVM is not going to give you directly the probability estimates, but that can be easily calculated by using cross validations. If the number of features is much larger than the number of samples, then you need to avoid overfitting in choosing kernel function, and regularization term is very crucial in case of SVM. So that was support vector machines. Support vector machines is a classifier that is formally designed by a separative hyperplane. So ultimately what you are going to do is you are going to find out this maximum margin hyperplane, so that the data is separated. The data is separated, and you find out a line which separates the data, which has a gap which is as wide as possible, or the maximum margin hyperplane is the idea behind support vector machine. Thank you.